Thank you. So we're now going to our panel, for our local panel of experts who are going to fill us in more on what's going on with community choice aggregation, clean energy locally. And I'm going to introduce them one at a time, and Don Weisz is our first panelist. Don has the daunting task of being the head of Marin County Sustainability Team Community Development Agency, which includes being not just coordinator for clean energy and community choice, as well as climate protection measures, but also heading green building programs and green businesses initiatives, and much, much more. So our hats are off to you. We welcome you, Don, and your team for the good things you're doing for our county. So Don Weisz.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here.
She has a different title at work. We call her the Queen of Green.
Yes, thank you. So I'm going to talk about some of the nuts and bolts of community choice aggregation. Some of you probably already know this. Some of you might have heard this talk before, but I know this is kind of a new concept, and it's a complex concept. So I want to kind of try and simplify it and explain what it is that we're trying to accomplish with CCA. So community choice aggregation has been explored by the County Board of Supervisors for the last about 2.5 years. We've been looking at the feasibility of launching a CCA here in Marin County, and we've learned a couple of things, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Next slide. So basically what community choice aggregation means is that local governments become the power purchasers for their communities, for the people in their communities, the residents and the commercial businesses. And this can happen in a couple of different ways. The two most common ways are for us to buy and own our own power generating facilities. And this would likely happen outside of Marin for the most part, especially at the beginning, but we could also buy and own power generating facilities within the county. So we're looking at that as well. And then a second way that we can provide power to our communities is to buy power from power generating facilities that are already up and running, like, you know, a power plant that PG&E might be running, or another energy business. Financially, we would have some advantages buying and owning our own power facilities. So we're looking at that, but it's likely that we would do a mix. Now, local government has some advantages over PG&E, and that's why we're looking at this. So some of the advantages that we have are that we are tax exempt, so we can borrow money at a cheaper rate. We don't have to pay such a high interest rate. We have a bond ability, so we can issue bonds to buy and build power generating facilities. PG&E can't do that. We also don't have to provide profits to our shareholders, so we can take any profits and put them back towards renewables or whatever we think is important at the policy level. Now, the way that it would work is that we would create a JPA that might be called a Marin Power Authority. And we still have a lot of figuring out to do of how this would all be structured. So really the earliest that it could start would be 2008. That would be the earliest that we would form a JPA. Now, customers would be in the CCA unless they choose to opt out. There would be a period of time where they receive a lot of marketing material and they're told that they can either choose to stay with PG&E, or if they remain silent, then they are automatically in the CCA as long as their local government has chosen to be part of the CCA. And that's important. That bodes well for the success of a CCA and having a lot of customers when they start. Now, it's important to note that PG&E would continue to deliver the electricity and serve the customers. They would still maintain all of the transmission and distribution lines, and they would still send the bills. And about 50% of a person's bill would still be to pay PG&E for those services. The other 50% of the bill would be to pay the CCA for the power purchasing side. Next slide. So why is the county, why are the cities exploring CCA? There are a number of advantages. The environmental advantages include reducing our dependence on fossil fuels, increasing our amount of renewable resources. And when I say renewable resources, I'm talking about solar power, wind power, small hydroelectric. And there could be a couple of other ones that we're looking at, but those are the primary. We'd be able to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions as well, and that's an important goal for the board and a lot of community members. There are some financial advantages as well. We could potentially save money for ratepayers in addition to the increase in renewables. As Charles mentioned, a lot of dollars could stay in the local community rather than going out to PG&E. Renewable-based businesses could be fostered in Marin County. And last of all, there would be a personal choice. Right now, the only choice is PG&E. Now, Marin is not the only municipality exploring CCA. This chart shows a number of others in California that are looking at CCA. Those listed on the right-hand side are a little bit farther along than we are. They're in the process of actively developing an implementation plan. San Francisco has made a lot of progress. Oakland, Berkeley, and Emeryville are working together, and they actually have a draft business plan already, which is available on our website if you want to take a look at that. And then the one at the bottom, Kings County, is actually the leader of us all, and they've actually submitted their implementation plan to the CPUC, and they are now officially a CCA as of a few weeks ago. So we're following in their lead, and it's interesting to note here that their primary goal wasn't renewables. They're doing this for other reasons. They're concerned about rate stability, local control, and profits, not having their rates get out of control. So it's interesting to kind of follow in their lead and tag on the renewable piece, which we're definitely interested in here in Marin County. And then the municipalities listed on the right-hand side are exploring, still under the doing studies to determine whether CCA is a good idea or not. So next slide. Now this slide is important because it shows the energy breakdown in Marin County. As you can see, there are the three biggest pieces of the pie there are San Rafael, Novato, and then Marin County, which is the unincorporated part of Marin County. And this is an important slide because in order to achieve economies of scale, we would need at least 50% of the energy load in Marin County to choose to participate in the CCA. So it's likely that two of those three big players would need to choose to be part of the CCA, or theoretically all of the smaller cities could join together and equal about one piece of the three large pieces of the pie. Next slide. Now, the phase 1 study was completed about a little over a year ago. And what the phase 1 study showed us is that we could potentially increase the amount of renewables from 15%, which is where we are now, to 51% in about 10 years under a CCA scenario. At the same time, we could generate as much as $240 million in savings to ratepayers between 2008 and 2020.